Today is September the 15th, 2015. My name is Tanya Finchum. I'm with Oklahoma State University, and today I am in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma County, to interview Hank Rogers, and this is part of our Cowboy in Every County project, so thank you for having me today.
You're welcome.
Let's start with having you tell us when and where you were born.
I was born in Duncan, Oklahoma on October the 9th, 1964, in the Lindley Hospital to Dr. Lindley. My parents were Cecil and Tommy Rogers.
And so what did they do for a living?
My dad worked in the oil field, and my mom at that time was a homemaker. There were 6 kids. I was the youngest of the 6, and in 1964 she was still pretty much a homemaker. As time progressed, my dad again worked in the oil field. By the late 60s, my dad bought an oil field company, oil field equipment rental company, and by and large that's what I knew until he died in 97. So I was raised in the oil field business. I was an oil field rat, and went to kindergarten at a church in Duncan. I think it was a Presbyterian church in Duncan. Public school kindergarten was not available at that time, but I went from 1st grade through 12th grade at Empire High School, which is a little rural school west of Duncan, Oklahoma, in Stevens County, and graduated in 1982 from Empire, and said all along that I wasn't going to school, wasn't going to college. I was going to work in the oil field. For those that are of any age at all knows what the industry was like in the 70s and the early 80s. It was wide open in the oil field, and I had worked a whole lot in the oil field, worked in the family business, and very much had that as my focus, period. That was my goal in life. The summer after I graduated high school, my parents paid, I took a trip to Europe, took a student council trip, actually represented the state of Oklahoma. Me and another guy went and toured Europe, and don't even remember the acronym. We went to school in Balliol College at Oxford University that summer. Studied international relations, political science, and debate. And we debated a bunch of British students several times, once a week for I think it was there 4 weeks. And then we got to tour Europe. We got to see NATO. We went to see SHAPE, which I had never even heard of SHAPE. SHAPE is the supreme headquarters of Allied Powers Europe. It's basically the military arm of NATO. NATO is the diplomats. SHAPE is the military might of NATO, which was interesting. Again, throughout that summer, I was not going to school. I didn't want anything to do with college. I already had 2 siblings that had graduated from OSU, and 1 sibling that was present at OSU at that time. But again, I didn't need school. I'm not going to school. I'm working in the oil field. That's it. Well, so I get back from Europe. It was 2.5 weeks prior to the start of school. Of course, I had already sent the paperwork at my mom's request to enroll, and had already been accepted and done all that stuff, but I'm not going. So I had been accepted but hadn't enrolled, and I enrolled in school like the week and a half before school started. At that time they had a program called Petroleum Engineering Technology, and I enrolled in that program, and I got stuck in Stout Hall. At that time I looked at it as being stuck in Stout Hall, non-air conditioned building, which moving up there, mid-August, I began to realize why in the world did I wait until 2 weeks before school to enroll. But it was such a nice dorm. I stayed there the next 4 years, or requested it the next 3 years. It was a great place to live. And then the last year, I think it was either the last year or my junior year, it actually went co-ed, which even made it nicer. So anyway, I enrolled in Petroleum Engineering Technology, graduated in 4 years on time, May of '86. Spring of '86, I didn't meet my wife. I met my wife a year earlier, but we got married. So I was married February of my senior year, finished school, And in '86, there wasn't a whole lot of work in the oil field. That was not a good time to be graduating school. I think my graduating class had 9. There was 9 that graduated with the program. We started when times were good, and we ended when times were not good. So when I got out of school, obviously we were living in Stillwater. We lived in Stillwater for another year, almost to the day after graduation. I worked basically wherever I could, but for the most part I worked for a roof truss company in Cushing, Oklahoma, and commuted back and forth making roof trusses for homes and buildings. May of '87, I had an opportunity to move back and work with the family business. Probably could have always moved back and worked with the family business, but times were really tough, and I knew that the business was not doing real well. It was a struggle. But there was a death. There was a gentleman that died that worked for my dad that didn't work for him forever and ever and ever, and it gave me an opportunity to backfill him. So that's how that transition took place. So my wife and 2 kids are in Duncan in May of '87, and I work for June of '87, something like that. I worked for Dad, worked for our business until November of '89, when my dad actually had an auction and sold out, at which time, by that time, we already had a 3rd son. And then in December of '89, I went to work for my current employer, which is Halliburton, so still in the oil field. I just finished last December my 25th anniversary with Halliburton. So in '90, we had our 4th son and final son, so we ended up with 4 boys. We've raised 4 boys. Here's my stint for them. They're all good, productive citizens of society. 3 of them are married, 3 of them are fully employed and on their own. I have 1 still in school, and he's set to graduate in a year, so we're doing very good. Let's see.
Did any of them go to OSU, your sons?
You know, 1 did. I had my 2nd son, Jordan, the one that nominated me. He left high school, went to school for a little bit, didn't work real well, but he ended up going to the Navy. He came back from the Navy grown up. He then went back to school, he actually just graduated this last May. Okay. So he's a graduate, he's fully employed and doing very well also. So our house was divided. We had 4 boys, 2. My wife and her family are all Sooner fans. Me and all my family are Cowboy fans, and it's amazing how the split in a household happens, but we have 2 boys that are Sooners and 2 boys that are Cowboys. It's just right down the middle. The one that's actually still in school is not going to OSU, but he is a Cowboy. So.
Is he going to the other school?
No, he's not going to the other school. He's going to UCO here in the city. So he stayed a little closer to home so he could work, and anyway, just chose a different path.
Do you want to tell us the name of your dad's company?
Duncan Rental and Supply. Duncan Rental and Supply. Cecil Rogers was his name. He'd been in the oil field business in southern Oklahoma for many years. We basically operated in Oklahoma, Texas, southern Kansas, New Mexico, and Arkansas. We had a broad reach. He actually didn't start the company. The Duncan Rental and Supply was actually started back in the 40s by a gentleman by the name of O.P. Jones. And Dad bought it from O.P. Jones. They had property side by side out in the country. That's how they knew each other. And then Dad bought O.P.'s, I don't know what the O.P. stood for. It was always O.P. Jones. It was O.P. this and O.P. that. So O.P. Jones, he bought it. So it was already an established business. So it really gave Dad a good opportunity to jump in and continue to grow, especially in the 70s, the way the oil field market was. It was a great time to be in the oil business.
Well, was he from Duncan himself?
He was born and raised in Duncan, Oklahoma. He went to high school at Empire High School, as I did. He graduated in 1944 from Empire High School. He had a neat story. of course, what was going on in the early 40s in the world. So, my dad did not serve in the military, and always, sometimes people look at that as a negative thing. But Dad, he actually had gotten his draft card from the Army in, I don't know, 43. He was junior, senior year. He had got his draft card, but he said, well, if I'm going to go be in the Air Force, which was very young at that time. So he went and volunteered for the Air Force, and it wasn't called the Air Force then, it was called something else, I don't remember what. But he went and tried out, and he flunked the physical. He had a bum knee from a basketball injury or something. So he flunked the physical, couldn't serve, and then 2 weeks later he showed up at the actual date that he was called to go in the Army, and when they found out that he had flunked the physical over there, they sent him on his way and said, go home. So that was his, he actually didn't serve. My mom is from Trinity, Texas, down northeast of Houston. Her last name, or maiden name, was Roach. So she was a cockroach. Yeah. So Tama Jean Roach. She didn't have a middle name. It was just Tama Jean Roach. So that was Mom and Dad. And Mom died in 2002. Dad died in 97.
And there were 6 children?
6 kids. The oldest is Rick. He graduated from OSU. Actually got a master's from OSU in animal science, I believe. And then never used that degree. Worked in the oil field his whole life. kind of a neat story. And then I had a sister that graduated in education from OSU, and then she subsequently got her master's and doctorate at some other universities. And then I had the third sibling that went there. She went also in education and ended up graduating, transferring to another school up in Missouri to actually graduate.
Okay.
So there was 4 of us in total that went to OSU, 3 of us that graduated in my family, siblings.
Well, back in high school, did you have a favorite subject?
I have extremely fond memories of high school. If I had to say a favorite subject, it would be math related. I had some great teachers, and just enjoyed it, and I was real good at it. It was small classes, as you would expect. I mean, literally, I had in my senior year, my math class was me and the professor, or me and the teacher in his office. He was the counselor, and it was just me and him. So I couldn't complain. They were very good to me. I was the student council president my junior and senior year, and they actually gave me an hour a day to take care of all the vending machines on campus and stuff like that. I handled the money, I ordered the candy, I filled the pop machines. It was pretty much a gravy job. I didn't do a work study at that time because it was the first hour of the day I chose it was by my choice, the way my schedule worked out. But I took care of student council stuff. It was basically an hour of Hank Rogers student council activities, and they don't do that anymore, I don't think. But I got to do it.
Well, did you play sports or?
I did not play sports. I played sports in the 7th grade when I moved into junior high. I played basketball 1 year, and I didn't need anybody to tell me I wasn't physically adept to that. So I didn't pursue that. But I was in band the whole time. I joined band in the 4th grade and went all the way through the 12th grade. So I was at all the activities. I just wasn't on the field. I was making the noise in the stands.
What instrument did you play?
Well, I started out on the baritone, brass, baritone, and then when I got into junior high, we started transitioning into jazz. Our band director was a bass player, Jay Branich, and he was a wonderful individual. But he was a I don't know, how do you say, he'd go play at the bars and stuff, and so he was into that, the 5 or 6 people, jazz band type stuff. So stage band is what we started. He started driving to as the group started growing in skills. He found it better Empire couldn't compete with Duncan, Comanche, and other schools that could put 70, 80, 100 kids on the field. We couldn't compete with them in marching, concert type stuff. But if you're only putting a dozen kids on a stage, you know, as small as Empire was, it'd have 25, 30 people come out for band, and not all of the 30 were very good. He could put 10, 12, 13, 14 together in a stage band, a jazz band, and we could compete very well. Mm-hmm. So that's what we did. That was what we did. We were a jazz band, and so when that happened, I transitioned from a baritone to a trombone, and still have all my trombones from back then.
Probably had more fun than a marching band.
Well, it was. There was a whole lot less competition. You stood out. We actually toured around all over southern Oklahoma, went to schools to do exchange programs, and we would go in and do a concert for these schools. So we went to Duncan, went to Comanche, went to Walters, which was just a bunch of rural schools around, and it was a big thing because, you know, back then nobody played. There wasn't jazz bands in every school. So it was a huge thing.
Have to play for dances?
No, we never played for dance. That because at that time that was, you know, that kind of goes back to the history of rural America. Empire didn't have dances until actually was it my senior year or my junior year? Anyway, it was
just they weren't allowed.
Exactly. Yeah. So. Anyway, but we played for some stuff at the country club. It was actually was OETA, Oklahoma Teachers Education Association. They would put on have meetings at the country club there in Duncan. We'd play for them and stuff like that. So it was fun.
Did you belong to FFA or 4-H or?
I did. I was in 4-H when I was real little, but. Other than a few science projects, I don't have any. I was not active in that in high school. My focus in high school, much to some people's dismay, was when I was younger was basically band, and then as I got older, it was band and work, and that was pretty much it. I mean, even in high school, as soon as I turned 16, I started driving, and again, what was going on in the oil field in the late 70s. And our products, we would deliver stuff. I would literally leave school, go hop in a truck, and I'd drive to West Texas, drive to southern Kansas, and I'd get back at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'd shower, go to sleep, get up and go to school the next day, and that was my life, and I loved it. That was my adrenaline rush. Was you know everybody else is going up and down the strip in Duncan, Oklahoma, and I'm waving at them in a truck headed to Elk City. You know, who knows? I was a geek.
And when would you do your homework if you're on?
You know, well, that's kind of the sad thing is that when I was in high school, there wasn't a whole lot of homework because it wasn't near as challenging as in hindsight I wished it had been, and what I would have wished on my kids and what we forced on my kids when they were growing up. You know, we wanted it to be more of a challenge. You know, high school was not work. It was a great time to I mean, at least for me, it was a really good time. Mm-hmm. And you know.
Would you get paid, or would?
Dad paid me. I don't know that it was maybe an equitable trade for the hours invested, but yes, I got paid. Dad paid me, and I had money, and I could do stuff. And when it came time to, I didn't buy a car when I turned 16, but later in my junior year, I found a car and I bought a car, and I had money to spend on it, and still have the car today, believe it or not. So.
Well, tell her what it was.
Well, it was a '68 Dodge Charger, and I made it a General Lee.
So is it orange?
It's orange with a 01 on the side, flag on the top, which is not exactly politically correct these days. So
True.
Terry's telling me how long I can keep it like that. But I had the roll bar, the push bar, and everything.
And it still runs?
Well, the motor would run, but the transmission's out on it. So it's right now it's sitting in a building up on blocks, just waiting until I have time to mess with it and resurrect it.
Or until one of the boys takes an interest in it?
Exactly, until they decide that enough is enough. So.
Well, did you have a bank account back in when you were 14, 15, 16?
Oh yeah. Mom and Dad gave us bank accounts. I couldn't even tell you how young I was. I was probably in the single digits. Mom and Dad, they opened up accounts for all of us, and I mean, back then it was just probably. I mean, I don't remember. I remember the little bitty bank. I probably still have. I think I still have the little bank book, little bitty bank ledger book. You flip through and you do your deposits and withdrawals. I still have it, and they deposited money, and they would deposit money that we didn't even know about, because, you just look at it, you get a bank, of course, not that I would ever get a bank statement, but by the time I got old enough to see a bank statement, I could see the history of all these deposits, which I obviously had not put in there. So, my parents were very good to me. I have absolutely nothing to complain about.
Did they help with tuition?
They helped with tuition until I got married, which, lucky for us, we didn't get married till our senior year, so it was all taken care of. Yeah, that was and tuition was, when I started at OSU, tuition was like less than $6 an hour, and when I graduated, it was $13 an hour, and I thought they were about to kill me.
And now how much is it?
Yeah, I probably 140 or something.
Oh, more than that.
Yeah.
I think it's over 300.
Really? Okay.
I think.
So I think the tuition has obviously way outpaced, cost of living and things like that. But no, my parents, they were very supportive of me. And they wanted me to go to college the whole time. Mom and Dad were just twisting my arm. I was the one that was rebelling, saying, no, I don't need to do that. I don't need that sheet of paper. I'm going to go to work in the oil field. I'm going to work with you.
And when you finally went, what did they say?
I don't even really remember.
I told you so.
Other than, I knew you would. I don't really remember the actual reaction of, okay, I'm going. I don't remember the response.
Did they take you up and drop you off?
Well, fortunately, I had a sibling there that was 1 year ahead of me, so we had a car. So I was in high cotton with that. Whereas my oldest brother, Rick, he's the one that literally got dropped off and they drove off. Again, times have changed. The times from the mid '60s to the late '70s was a huge difference. But no, we had an automobile the entire time.
And what did you take with you? Do you remember? 1 or 2 suitcases and a TV, or what?
I don't remember if I had a TV or not, but I had. No, I don't remember the details of that. I have no. I remember going up and down the stairs of Stout Hall. I remember how hot it was, and how at every turn I was complaining about, while my friends that I graduated high school with were up in, in Kerr or in Wilhelm, or in I guess it was Scott Parker Wentz, but one of those was a girl and 2 was
Scott Parker were boys.
Scott Parker. Okay, they were up there, and. Again, the whole air conditioning thing was huge, and I had missed it because I'd waited. But the flip side was the Stout Hall rooms were significantly larger than everybody else, and they had a sink in the room. That's huge. I mean, the sink in the room came to be very huge, and I had a roommate for 2 years, and then I had a private room for my junior year, and until I turned it in in my senior year, which was outstanding. So
what floor? And what room number?
I was in 413 for the first 2 years, and then I was in 421 the last 2 years.
So you didn't even change floors?
No, I didn't. No, it was great. It was great, and again, it was the people were the same. There's half the people that were there that hated it, couldn't get past the old building and the fact that the lunchroom's not in Stout, we had to go over to Stout. What was the sister dorm?
Not
We had to
Bennett's,
walk.
Not Bennett, no.
To eat lunch. It was south of the registrar's office, whatever that building is.
South of Whitehurst.
Well, Willard's there.
Willard.
Willard. It was Willard that.
It was a women's dorm.
Okay, that was where that was our sister dorm, and we had to go eat. That's where we ate our meals. Was in Willard Hall. But again, half the people didn't like it. Half the people did and stayed, and all of a sudden the second year, the third, I mean, just like me and my roommate got stuck there our freshman year, and we stayed there our sophomore year, and then Randy Redden, my roommate, he moved out and roomed with another guy junior and senior year, and that's when I got a private room. And it was at the end of the hallway on a corner, so there was no traffic. You could leave your door open, and it was awesome.
The phone was down the hall or in the room?
No, we actually had a phone in the room. The phones in the hall, I don't remember one being in the hall. It was down on like the first. There was phones you could use, but they weren't on the floor. But we had a phone in our room all 4 years.
And would you call home often?
Oh, I'm sure I did in the beginning, but you got to keep in mind. Remember my work ethic from high school was band and work. Well, even in college, it was the exact same thing. I mean, I had one semester that I arranged all my classes on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Everything. My entire class was Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Well, I would go home Thursday night, work Friday and Saturday, Sunday and Monday, come back Monday night and go to school on Tuesday. And it was, so I had lots of, I wouldn't have any class on Friday. Or I wouldn't have any class. I didn't try to get a class empty in the middle of the week. It was always Monday or Friday. I was trying to get it week because I would go work and take care of the home place. Do what?
By choice.
By choice, yeah. I mean, again, yeah, it was by choice. I am a very good example of if you enjoy what you do, if you enjoy what you put your hands to do, you'll never work a day in your life. I enjoy the satisfaction of accomplishment. Accomplishment has satisfaction, or has rewards, and I like doing stuff. I'm a doer to a great extent.
Well, if your room wasn't air conditioned, did you go to study in the library or the student union?
Only when I was needing stuff from the library. By and large, you just learn to live with it. I had on the fourth floor of Stout Hall, it has the big dormers coming out, if you remember the building. Well, those are all little people would generally put their twin bed in that dormer. Well, I would have my twin bed in there, but there would be a fan at the end there with the window open. So, lots of box fans. I actually had a couch with a hide-a-bed in my room, believe it or not, that a guy gave me. So, but no, the heat was rough, and people don't appreciate that. That actually brings up an interesting point. You don't appreciate the simple thing of doing your homework, and this. You have to constantly wipe your arm because the sweat off your arm is getting all over your paper. That simple thing of we couldn't work like that today. And I'm not that old. A lot of people had it a whole lot rougher than what I had it, as if a non-air conditioned building was rough. Again, I got stuck there and chose it by choice the next 3 years, so at least I didn't think it was unbearable. My kids would have thrown a shoe and would have revolted had I asked them to stay in a non-air conditioned dorm.
Well, if you were coming home on the weekends and you were studying so hard those 3 days that you were there, what would you do for fun?
Well, I was very active in church, and by and large, other than the guys on the floor in the dorm, we obviously did intramurals, and the intramurals that I participated in, by and large, was softball, and then I refereed softball a couple of years with intramurals, and racquetball. That's probably the only two activities that I participated in as far as on campus with the guys in the dorm. But outside of school, I was very active and got involved very much so with the church in Stillwater. My sister had already been there a year ahead, so again, I didn't have to go break the ice myself. You know, I kind of got led into it, and that was was life changing. That's where I met my wife and at the church. So it was, it was outstanding.
And you mentioned you were in band in high school, and
Yeah, I was in band in high school, and then I actually served in the OSU marching band 1 year, my junior year. I think it was my junior year. Was it my junior year or my sophomore year? I don't remember. I think it was my junior year. I think it was my third year. I did it.
What year was the Gator Bowl?
Yeah, it was the year we went to the Gator Bowl, whatever year that was, with Pat Jones. So I played trombone for the marching band. That was a blast. You know, a lot of hot practices out on the Lewis Field. But that again, that was good memories. I remember when it came time to go to the OU game. Of course, I got to go because I was in the band. But as a student, I could have 2 tickets. And at that time, they didn't have a lottery or anything. It was, you had to go wait in line. It was basically first come, first serve, as long as the tickets lasted. And I remember camping out there outside of Gallagher, Iowa, camping at starting at 7, 8 o'clock the night before in freezing temperatures because it was cold. And I got my 2 tickets and gave them to a friend at church so he could go to the game with his girlfriend. So.
camping out with tents and
Yep.
such?
We had tents, and Joey brought us hot chocolate and dinner and stuff like that while we was out there waiting in line. Yeah. I think that's the only time I've ever done anything like that. That was fun. Again, it's the whole camaraderie of the people all around you, and everybody's doing the exact same thing. Everybody's there for the exact same reason, suffering through the exact same weather conditions, and everybody's uncomfortable and stuff like that. So that was fun.
Well, did you have another favorite spot on campus, even today, that you like to go back to?
Well, Theta Pond. I mean, how could you? I mean, back then Yeah, I mean, again, I'm a country boy, so I loved OSU campus in general. But we would go pitch rocks on Theta Pond, and it's changed a lot since I was there. But or at least the last time we were there, there's lots of changes that's happened on campus. But yeah, that and then obviously the grounds in front of Edmund Lowe Library. That's you'd go out and sit, but again, I didn't spend a whole lot of time sitting. For me, sitting was waiting from between one class and the next, and it's too lazy to go back to the room, and you sit down and do a little homework right then and there.
Let's do the union.
I'll never forget one time I was in the student union. And again, the student union then and now is not the same thing, but I had eaten or had gotten a snack. And just one story that I've actually told over and over again in my career was a guy walked up and said, "Can I sit down?" And of course he was an adult, he wasn't a student. And it was obvious right off the bat. And it turns out he was there for interviews. Oh, okay, well, what are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And he's asking me all these questions. Of course, I wasn't a senior, wasn't ready to graduate, but he was asking me all these questions. And I tell him what degree I've got, what my background is and everything. And he said, well, yeah, we can use people like that. And then he tells me he was from the CIA. I'm here interviewing for the U.S. government for the CIA. What in the world does the CIA need a petroleum graduate for? Well, then he went into all the justification. It was a really neat, eye-opening as to you think that your degree is so, you have your own idea of where you're going to go to school or what you're going to do, but sometimes the path once you get out the door is, again, get the sheet of paper and then you can do anything. You can do anything you want to do. Just get that sheet of paper. So.
Well, who would do your laundry?
I did my own laundry. Now, probably the first year I would bring it home with me, and Mom would obviously do it. But not too long after that, again, it became easier to do the laundry there than it was to pack it and carry it and do all that. Again, I'm always looking to simplify things and eliminate work. You could say improve efficiency might be a better way to say it.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided that carrying big laundry baskets up and down flights of stairs and elevators and carrying it way out into the parking lot was a whole lot more work than just doing the laundry yourself. You know, go down the elevator, step off to the right, and there's the washing machine. So it wasn't very long into my college career that I did my own laundry and did forever.
Self-sufficient.
Yeah, well, or lazy, depending on how you look at it.
Well, did the student union have the bowling alley in it when
Yes, they
you
did.
were
Yes,
there?
they did. I don't know that they had the bowling alley, and they had they used to show movies in there as well. But I didn't. I mean, we did use the bowling alley. The bowling alley is probably the one thing that even within the I'd bring kids from church. We would go to the bowling alley and play. Yep.
Some wish it was back.
Yeah.
They've changed that building quite a bit.
No, I don't even know my way around there. I mean, we was up there just this last football season, and you know, we constantly go in there, and it seems like it changes every time I go there, which is good. The changes are good. It's a lot nicer facility than it was, you know, by and large when I was there, but a lot more spacious for sure.
How often do you get back?
You know, not as often as I wished. I mean, we went up there when our kids were doing college tours, and then we've been there for probably one football game a year. Not great, but once a year we'll go back up, and we keep saying we're going to go back up, and you know, we'll go up there on an off football weekend and just walk around because we're always just clock. We gotta go. We want to see all this, but we don't have near enough time to see everything. And of course, my wife worked on campus for 6 years, so she has great memories of the campus as well. And when we go back and visit, we don't go to all the new places other than the student union. It's obviously remodeled, but it's still the student union. We go to the older buildings and go down memory lane of the old arts and science, the old engineering building, the old, you know, Cordell Hall, which is, you know, turned into a technology building and stuff like that. But I actually have spent more time in our trips back going to the old buildings there's some of the new buildings that have been there for years and years and years, and I've never even walked in them, never broke the door, just because so short on time. I don't have any memories that takes me in there. They always take me to the old stuff. I remember this class. I remember these stairs. Stuff like that. So
Classroom building there?
the classroom building, yeah, the classroom building was there, just north of the student union.
And was Noble Research Center, or was it?
No, that came
after.
That was the Noble Research Center. That was the old International Plaza. That went all the way up. That whole area went. It didn't go all the way. What was the road north of the football field?
Well, Washington stops at campus and then picks up again, but
Okay.
McElroy does parallel Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of Hall of Fame McElroy, yeah.
But anyway, that between there was the engineering building, and then there was two buildings that run north and south. One was this was an engineering building, and the one on the east was an engineering building, and the one on the west that's where I took electrical classes, physics building or something like that.
Yeah.
And that whole center area was where all the flag, which is the south side of the Noble building now.
Yeah, north of the library.
Exactly. Yeah, you come right out of the north end of the library, and you were in the old International Hall or International Plaza, whatever it was called.
I figured with petroleum, if it had been there, you would have had classes.
Exactly. It didn't come until, I don't even remember if they were breaking ground. Again, in the mid-'80s, they weren't spending a lot of money in petroleum.
That's when the banking and the oil and all that changed, wasn't it?
Exactly,
I don't know my history too well, but
Yep,
in the
that's
early
correct,
80s.
yeah. Yeah, the Penn Square Bank right over here not too far from here was, I think, the first major domino that fell in the early 80s that precipitated into lots of bad days in the banking business.
For a graduation day, did your parents come up?
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. And it was in the Gallagher, Iowa. Honestly, I couldn't tell you who the speaker was. I remember the building. I remember standing there taking pictures because I guess that's the one thing you have, so you remember the photograph. Mm-hmm. But man, my class was so small. I have no contact with people that I couldn't even. I'd have to go back in an annual to try to find them. Again, my by that time I was focused on family and then still involved in the church a lot. So my relationship with fellow students was actually second or third tier in my sphere of influence, so to speak.
Well, your roommate that you had for 2 years, do you stay in touch
Randy
with him?
Redden, yeah, we corresponded every now and then. He went into accounting, so we kind of divested. He graduated from OSU, went to work with one of the big, huge accounting firms, got his CPA license, and then he actually married a girl from Latin America whose parents were very affluent in that country, whatever the country was. And he now, I believe, he still manages their estate or their assets in the U.S. So he's doing very well.
And once you graduated from OSU, you had a couple of jobs, and then you ended up at Halliburton.
Yep, I ended up at Halliburton in '89, December of '89. Been there ever since.
Doing what?
Well, I've been in technology the whole time. I have actually done virtually the same job. When I first started, I started out swinging a sledgehammer, working on a place that the technology group called Skid Row, which is Skid Row not because it's bad, but because it's a mobile facility where they move stuff in and out to do different types of testing. Everything's on skids, so you move skids, portable units all over the place. I did that for just nearly 6 months, and my in to Halliburton was, remember, our family business was equipment, rental oil field equipment. Mm-hmm. Well, we rented a lot of equipment to the testing group at Halliburton, which was at Skid Row and at the test well and stuff like that. So I knew those people. And when my dad was selling out, again, we were a small family business, feast or famine. You make money this week, you may not make money next week. It's very cyclical. My wife couldn't handle that. She just couldn't handle the feast or famine mentality of being self-employed. So she actually went and got the application for Halliburton, and I filled it out, and they hired me. So I went to work for Halliburton Technology, the old mechanical research and development group at the lab. I worked there for 6 months, and then I moved over in May of '90 to the technology center there in Duncan in a group called Tools Research and Engineering, TRE. And I got put into a downhole cementing tools group called Casing Equipment then, and that's still the group I work for today. Now I'm senior global advisor for the group, and I've held nearly every position in the group over the last 25 years. And I've been a part of the development of technology for Halliburton ever since. It's just been a wonderful, for me, a wonderful career. I've had opportunities. Again, my mindset when I was growing up was I was going to work in our place of business over there on the east side of town. And going to work for Halliburton, Halliburton was born in Duncan, essentially was incorporated in Duncan, so its entire history is tied to Duncan. But you go to work for a technology group, and I had no idea the influence that the name Halliburton had to our vendors. Say if you have an idea as a little independent company, it's hard to get people to support your idea and to find people to fund it suppliers to give you products. Well, with Halliburton, I found myself in a position if I went to a vendor and asked for something, well, all of a sudden they would throw resources at you. They would do things. They would take you. You would ask them a question, and they'd go do 3 more things to try to get you an answer. And so you had access to lots of capabilities, and that was very, very eye-opening to me. And after a few years, I guess in '86, I got my professional registration. So I'm a registered professional engineer in the state of Oklahoma.
On 86.
In what?
You said 86.
In '96. I'm sorry, in '96 I got my professional registration. Again, been a part of technology development. Just, it's neat to design something that you see used all over the world. And
Do some patents then?
I got to do a lot of patents. I actually have 61 patents.
Wow.
I have 61 patents. I've written something in the mid to low 50s of papers, written lots of papers, traveled the world, been to low 50s countries, 50-something countries around the world, 52. And again, that's kind of where I was headed to. I was only thinking in terms of, before I went to Halliburton, going to our business on the east side of Duncan. And now, Halliburton has been wonderful to me. They've shown me how big the world is. This world's a whole lot bigger than Duncan, Oklahoma. It's a lot bigger than Oklahoma. It's a lot bigger than the United States, much to the chagrin of lots of people. The world is a big place, and traveling to the Caribbean on a vacation, on a cruise, is not international travel. Again, I have multi-entry visas for Saudi Arabia, Angola, Australia, and Brazil, and can come and go at will to those, and that's just those 4 countries. And then there's lots of countries that you can travel to with an American passport anyway, but
Speak other languages?
I wished I could. I can't speak any other language other than English, and I don't know that I speak English very well. But the good thing about the oil field is that the oil field almost completely is influenced by the West, not just the United States, but the United States and Europe, the UK. Lots of national oil companies around the world were founded by American oil companies or British oil companies, and English rules the oil field. By and large, you can go and communicate. Now, to and from the hotel and restaurants and things like that can be a challenge sometimes, but when you're at work, by and large, English rules.
That makes sense.
Kind of like in the aviation industry. I mean, if you're going to be a pilot and fly international cross borders, you have to be able to speak English, because all air traffic control globally, at least as far as international transportation, is done in English. So I serve, API is the American Petroleum Institute. That's the kind of an industry regulatory body that creates documents, standards, and practices for the oil industry, all aspects of the oil industry. I've served on API Committee 10, SC10, which is a standing committee 10 for oil well cements since 2002. So I've done that. Been a part of the writing of standards for the oil industry used in my little world, my little piece of the pie, so to speak. So again, it's been very fun. Back in the 90s at Halliburton in Duncan, I had the opportunity, I had several opportunities to move and to go to other groups and do other things. And because I am so resistant to change, number one, it kept me doing the same thing. Number two, I thoroughly enjoyed what I did. It's like, man, this is so fun. I'm having so much fun. Why would I do something else? I like these people. But at the end of the day, I chose, and this is kind of the way I've explained it, I chose early on to be the person that writes the books than the guy that reads the books. So within my little hole in the world, that's what I chose to do. I chose to be the guy that writes the books and the guy that people go to when something's not clear. So
Well, how did you get from Duncan to Oklahoma City?
In 2012, my group began a transition from Duncan, Oklahoma to Houston. As with a lot of Halliburton's research in technology, they built a new technology center in Houston, and they were systematically moving pieces of it to Houston. And my group was slated to move in 2012. Or was it 2011? 2012. And at that time, our first grandbaby was announced, and I'm traveling a whole lot. I spend historically somewhere between a quarter and a third, not much more than a third of my time gone. My wife says half the time, but I spend a lot of time gone. So in Duncan, we had country property, several acres, high maintenance, kids are all gone, Hank's gone, my wife's kind of AD&D as it comes to how things look. So she began bearing the brunt of our property. And, you know, all the perfect storm developed that she's doing all the work, my group's moving, grandbaby's coming, we need to be closer to the kids. So we have 2 kids in the Oklahoma City area, 2 kids in Tulsa, and the grandbaby was going to be in Tulsa. So we chose to move north after being in Duncan essentially my whole life, except for when I went to school plus a year. We chose to move north to get closer to the kids so she would be able to be closer to them when I'm gone. And Halliburton was, originally I moved to Tuttle, Oklahoma, which gave us basically enough, I could commute and still work at Duncan. But as the transition drew to a close in Duncan, Halliburton was gracious enough to allow me to work remote. So I actually work at the sales office downtown Oklahoma City, and but I still have my group, my technology groups in Houston, and my managers in Houston, and all of my work is associated in Houston. So at that time, I became an off-site employee, basically.
Racking up frequent flyer points.
Yeah, I've been blessed with lots of frequent flyer miles.
Do you have to go out to the rigs out in the ocean?
Yep, I actually just got back from Norway just, on August the 12th. And I spent almost 2 weeks offshore Norway. When I go to the field, my wife doesn't like me to say it this way, but people ask me what I do for a living. I say I sell confidence in myself, my people, and my equipment. Okay? Sometimes that entails just office visits. Sometimes it entails convincing my own employees, my own Halliburton coworkers, to trust me this will work. Because nobody wants to use a tool the first time. But remember, I'm in the technology business. So that's all I do is make new things, make new processes and procedures. Well, sometimes, it's relationships. You have to convince somebody that what I'm bringing to your location will work. Because this may be $100 million well, and I'm asking you to do something that's never been done anywhere in the entire world. You are first. Well, so a lot of that is made possible through relationships and just, okay, I'll be there. I will be there when this happens. And that's exactly what happened in Norway. I mean, it's a tool that we deployed globally in 2012, but in Norway they had never used it before. So it was a huge process to get it approved from a regulatory perspective. And once we got approval, let's go, Hank. So I went to the job and everything went well. It was a good job. So.
But does it always go well?
No, it has not always gone well. Sometimes things happen. Obviously, every time we go to jobs, safety is number one. We don't want anybody to get hurt. We want everybody to go home. We want to protect the environment. This is a Halliburton commercial here. We want to protect the environment, number 2. And then number 3, we want to protect the customers or the client's investment. Sometimes the investment is at stake. Something we say is going to take 6 hours takes 12 hours. Well, that extra 6 hours is very expensive. So sometimes things don't go perfect, but have I ever been a part of a job personally where we totally scrapped and bad things happened and we had to move the rig and go do something else? No, that's never happened.
Okay.
Part of that is just good people, good planning, and good execution.
But some of these things that you're applying today, can you track them back to your OSU education?
Well, I mean, the fundamentals, absolutely. I mean, for me, my degree was petroleum engineering technology, which is fundamentally very much like a petroleum engineering degree. But it's more focused on the technical side, the hands-on, the application of the technology or of the engineering. It all comes back to fundamentals. You know your math, understand forces, understand free body diagrams. I do it constantly. People, I try to get people to stop looking at this picture and let's look at this picture. And free body diagram from a math class, from a physics class, from a dynamics class. You eliminate all the noise and let's just talk about what's happening right here. And that's a part of the fundamentals. I said earlier that get the sheet of paper and you can go do anything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I work with some people that have physics education degrees, but yet they're in my field doing work. It's because they know the fundamentals. I mean, by and large, most businesses are going to teach you what they want you to do. They're going to teach you how to do what they want you to do. You just need to bring the skill sets that prove that you're trainable and that you can be educated to do things in a structured, regimented, process-oriented manner. So, I mean, my degree was petroleum engineering technology. It was all focused on the oil field, virtually, other than what we would now call core curriculum. All of my classes were taught by people that were familiar with the oil field. And I was raised in the oil field. So for me, the OSU experience was just the culmination of my life at that time. I mean, it was just, I'd been raised in the oil field. I'd been to well sites all over South Central United States and had spent lots of time in these places, but I didn't have the understanding of what was actually going on. I was just bringing the 2x4 to the house, but I really didn't know why you used a 2x4 instead of a 2x6. Mm-hmm. The OSU education helped teach me why you do one thing over another and why you do it in this order. Again, it comes back to foundation. It comes back to just laying the brick in education from the perspective of teaching the student what he needs to know to be successful. It's not teaching him, it's not a guarantee that he's going to be successful, but it's providing the building blocks that you can, when you walk out the door, you have the skill sets to take the next step. I hope that's a reasonable answer.
That's good. So you thank your mother for making you apply.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the two things. Number one, mom making me or twisting my arm or shaming me into going to school. My wife shaming me into going to work for Halliburton. And, that's probably the two women that's most influential in my life that has got me to where I'm at today. Because, again, I'm much better equipped to be an independent business owner now than I would have been 30 years ago. But I wouldn't trade it. I mean, I've had a great career. Great career. And it's so much of success is dependent upon the individual. You have to capitalize on the circumstances that you're in, and I think every day the work ethic that my dad gave me. My dad wasn't a golfer, he wasn't a fisherman, he wasn't a hunter, and neither am I. I found out and have learned how to enjoy what I'm doing, and I think tremendously that's what's contributed to my success, not only in high school, in college, and in the workforce.
Have you figured out how to translate that into the same lesson for your children?
Well, my kids, I think they think I'm a whole lot smarter now than they were than I was at maybe 7 or 8, 10 years ago. They've you know, honestly, I'm gonna say the answer is yes to that question. But in the last 10 years, I mean, our oldest is what, 33? 34, just turned 34. So I think over the last 15 years, there was a lot of questions as to whether or not we had been successful or not. But of late, we were very successful. We were very blessed. And I think the biggest key to that success is do, don't tell. Just if you're consistent in your how you live your life, people tend to emulate success.
Live by example.
Exactly, live by example, and that's. I mean, I'm too dumb to teach anybody in a structured environment. It's just, hey, come follow me. Come, let's go do this. And you know that's actually amazing what you say. I'm those that I work for at Halliburton now want to be extremely structured. They try to force me to be extremely structured and regimented in how things work. And for all the things that I've told you about myself, one of the aspects that I struggle with is the mentoring factor. They want me to mentor the way they want you to mentor. The way I do it is just, let's go. You know, I just finished 2 weeks of testing in Duncan, and I'm, you know, the most senior person in the group almost completely. There's one guy that's got more years than me. But yet I'm in Duncan wearing a pair of coveralls and a hard hat, and we're right in the middle of the thick of things, doing stuff. That's the way I was raised. And to this day, I think a big part of my success is because I was raised working that way and I understood things. People didn't have to tell me why we're doing this test, why we have to have all these things. I just knew it because I had done it 1,000 times. When I had some opportunities with Halliburton to interview new employees or interview high school, college graduates, and one of the questions that I interjected several times was the rhetorical question, as if you wake up in the morning and you go out to your car and there's a flat tire, what do you do? You know, and you'd be surprised at how many people call a taxi, call a friend, call AAA, blah, 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 versus, well, I changed the tire. That seems obvious, but you'd be amazed how many people don't do that. And I choose to be with the guy that says, change the tire. You know, just proactively recognize the problem and identify a solution, and let's do it. Let's make it happen, and then we'll go on.
I get out the manual and and follow the instructions.
But just the idea of, you know, my water pump's out on my car. Do you take it to the car shop or do you change it yourself? I mean, just that whole. I'm a very hands-on, mechanically oriented individual, and I think I learned by showing and by doing. So.
Well, is there more men in your area of work than women?
Okay, so that's a good question. Over time, let's start out. When I started to work, when I first started, say, going to the field or working in the technology environment, when I started to work, I don't know that there was any women. I mean, there were very few and far between in the engineering realm, not secretaries, drafters, things like that, but in, say, from an engineering perspective. It was very, very low. Now, there's at least with my company, there's a lot of focus on gender diversification, and they actually put priority not only on hiring women, but hiring minorities and hiring culturally diverse groups of individuals. So now it's not only in Halliburton, but in the oil companies, there's a lot more women involved in every aspect of the business. I mean, everywhere.
And then there'd have to be some trained before you could have some to work. So,
Right, yeah, I mean, they go through the
so-
engineering and they go, I mean, I've been on offshore platforms where there was the roustabouts, the roughnecks, the people that's doing the non-skilled labor jobs. And you know, when given an opportunity, they do very well.
Interesting.
So statistically, it's still probably low at that area, but it's changing continually. I mean, it's the gender gap is completely, or it's becoming blurred significantly. Yes, and from an engineering perspective, very much so. It doesn't really matter.
Right. Math.
Exactly. Yeah, it's called. Can you add and subtract? End of story.
Yes.
Do you understand action, reaction? Do you understand things like that?
Well, the people that you work with, are they aware that you're an OSU grad?
Yeah. Yeah, it's,
You are orange some to work?
I do. This, yes. And if we had the interview at my office, you'd see the big OSU flag hanging on my wall.
Okay.
But
Have you been up to walk around or homecoming?
yes, we was up there last year actually.
Okay.
For last year's when we were there last.
The pipes are already showing up
Yeah.
for the decorations.
It'll be long.
Well, is there anything else you want to add before I ask my last question?
You know, I don't know. I tend to ramble so much.
No, you've done very good. Advice for incoming students?
You know, my advice for incoming students is master the fundamentals. You got to read, you got to write, you have to add and subtract. I mean, you know, in a technology environment, here's I'll use myself as an example. We have designed tools, and then we design tests to evaluate that tool's performance, and then you write reports on the test that you did. Well, today, when I go back and look at reports that I wrote in the early 90s, I ask myself, why did my manager let me do that? Because they were pathetic. You know, learn. You can't get past reading and writing and being able to communicate, both verbally and in writing. Learn the fundamentals. You know, you need to master the fundamentals so you can be successful doing difficult things. If you ever want to do difficult things, you need to master the fundamentals. I don't know, study, do what your professor says, turn your homework in, go to class. She got me in trouble. I had one class that I got a B in. It was an electrical class, and electrical things came very easy to me. Circuitry and stuff, and it was during her lunch. It was like a 12:30 to 1:30 class, and it was during her lunch hour, obviously, and she was on campus, so I was continually being late for that class, and it really didn't bother me because I mean the homework was absolutely not a problem, the tests were absolutely not a problem, but all of a sudden it came grade time and I got a B. And it was so frustrating. I even went to the professor and asked. I said, look at all the tests. I'm obviously not a B student. Well, if I remember correctly, I'll just use this as an example, there was 1,000 points possible in the class. 120 points was quizzes. Well, in all of my other stuff, I had maybe gotten 850 out of 880 points. But out of the quizzes, because I missed so many classes, because I was there, quizzes was at the beginning of the hour and I didn't show up till 15 minutes later, I missed so many quizzes that I, you know, like 30 out of 120, 50 out of 120. So I was basically below the like 940 mark or whatever it took to get an A. And the problem was there was one student between me and there. So they wouldn't, because I was trying to get him to move me up, and so I can't move you up without moving him up, and he's not an A student. So I got a B in that class because of her. So the point there is understand the program, and I wrestled with our kids. Our kids is understanding the whole program, and I'm assuming college is like it was when I was there, at least fundamentally. You know up front what you have to finish. And you need to learn the system, and you need to make sure that you do what you're supposed to do. Do your ABCs, and you can keep track. I would tell my kids, in the 10th week of school, you should know exactly where you're at. I mean, there's no guessing, there's no surprises. If you have done your homework and you've tracked it, other than stuff that the professor hasn't given you back yet, you should know exactly where you stand.
That's a very hard lesson to teach.
And I don't know how to.
Yes.
Yeah, that's tough. But
So,
that's it.
so you made A's in all the other classes?
No, and actually probably the one story that I'll say, because remember I worked all the time. I didn't make as good grades. My GPA wasn't what it should have been in hindsight. My senior year, again, I was focused on graduating in 4 years. I mean, that was my goal, and so I actually I went to summer school between my junior and senior year. It took 9 hours, and I had to take 2 classes concurrently that were supposed to be prerequisite, but the professor let me do it. And my senior semester, I only needed 21 hours to graduate. I took 22 hours my senior semester, and worked at Oberlin Color Press 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. and was married in February of that semester. So that was the toughest semester I had, but I finished it. So we have our third son. We kept hammering him. We finally, after the first 2, we finally said, we'll pay for 4 years of school. We'll support you for 4 years, 8 semesters, 12 if you count summer, I guess. But after 4 years, we're done. So everybody says, nobody can graduate in 8 semesters. It takes 10, it takes 12, it takes 50,000 semesters. No, we're done. And our son, our third son, graduated in 4 years on time. And as he was going through his senior year, he began looking at the end, and we would ask him, aren't you glad you graduate next May instead of having a whole nother year to go? And then I would explain it to them. I said, do you realize that's not only a whole nother year of cost, living expenses and existing, but that's a year that you're deferring your income. That's a whole nother year. You could have made $25,000. You could have made $45,000 this time next year if you had graduated in May like you're supposed to. So, I was just real unforgiving about thou shalt do this. By golly, I'm not worried about what everybody else does. It's called the curriculum, and you plan your schedule, and you do it. And again, I didn't do all the activities that lots of people do and stuff. So for me, it was an easy decision. But my advice to students is stay focused, learn the fundamentals, and don't get behind, because getting behind is bad.
And be on time to class.
And be on time to class, exactly. Go to class and develop a relationship, rapport with the instructor, sit up front so he sees you or she sees you. Get them to where they recognize you, and don't be afraid to ask them. By and large, they're not quite as mean as what they appear to be. Thank you. A last question.
No.
Okay.
A couple more.
Uh-oh.
We've been trying to ask if people can explain what the loyalty is to OSU. Why do you think what is it about OSU that spurs people to have loyalty to the university?
Well, so that's a very broad, correct question, and not just talking about OSU, but just loyalty to anything, commitment to anything, whether it be an employer, be it a state of Oklahoma and Oklahoma pride, but I think it's, yeah, I mean, to me, it's family, it's relationship, it's kindred spirits, it's agreement in, I liked this was good when I was there and I support it now. I want you, my kids, to have the same memories that I had. I want you to have the same opportunities to experience this, and this that I had, and it just breeds the whole attitude of come with me, this is fun, let's go, let's do this. And versus that was the worst, darkest time of my life, and I would never make my kids do that at all. You know, that the two attitudes of the parents that and the graduates, the alumni that speak positively about their experience and contribute, and both time and talent and finances to the university. It comes back to it was something that was good in their mind, and they want to propagate it for future generations.
Okay, last question.
Okay.
Where do you consider home?
Well, now I guess home is wherever we are, which is right here. If I look at the broader picture, for me and my family background, home is in Duncan. I was raised there. My dad was raised there. All of his siblings, he was the 9 kids. Mm-hmm. You know, they were all raised in Duncan. All went to Empire. I think they're all of the siblings are dead, but 2 now. There's 2 sisters that are still alive. But home is the old home place that I was raised at. I mean, in Duncan, Oklahoma.
A little bit broader, Oklahoma.
Absolutely, Oklahoma.
You've had opportunity. You could have lived.
I could have lived in
Anywhere
several
else.
places in the U.S. as well as other countries around the world. And you know, that's actually a good question. It spurs a different question. In all of my travels around the world, remember I've been to a little over 50 countries, and a whole lot of them are countries that you don't go to on vacations. It's the developing countries, third world countries. People are constantly asking, where's the favorite place you've ever been? Where would you like to? What's the best place you've ever been? And sometimes you can't be honest because of who you're talking to. But whether you're in the deserts or the jungles or in the ice or in the frigid parts of the world, you know, my answer is there's no place like home. Wherever home is at, that's the politically correct answer. Because I've seen guys that came from developing countries to the United States and worked here for 3, 4, 5, 6 months on a training program, maybe a year, maybe 18 months, and I look at them and I say, how can you be homesick? How can you not? Because sometimes they have an opportunity to stay. They choose to go home. And I ask myself, or I used to ask myself, why would you miss an opportunity to stay in the United States versus going back to where you're having? Because I know where you're going. I've been there. And it's not an easy place to live in comparison. And it all comes back to there's no place like home. That's where family's at. That's where friends are at. That's where everything that you know is at. And that will get you through lots of hardships, and you tend to, it's kind of like, some people move and they only work for money, and if you work for money, you're going to hate your job because you're going to always say you're not making enough money. But if you decide that you actually enjoy what you're doing, they can never pay you enough because you enjoy what you do. Mm. And same thing, so there's no place like home. Where you hang your hat.
Okay. The cowboy hat in this
There you go,
case.
absolutely, and cowboy boots.
One more thing.
Okay, so there was one particular class, it was a strength of materials class, and I don't remember, there was 2 professors teaching the class. One was Dr. Netherly, and I don't know if he's still at OSU or not. My presumption is he's not, it was over 30 years ago. And he was a grown adult then, so my guess is he's long since retired. But everybody said, don't take Dr. Netherly's class. Don't take his section. Don't take his section for two reasons. Number one, he was the dean of the school, dean of the college. And number two, they were teaching out of his textbook. Don't take Dr. Netherly. Well, so when I enrolled in the class, I obviously did what everybody told me to do, is I enrolled in the other guy's class, whose name I don't even remember. Okay, so that tells you how much influence he had on me. But when I showed up at the class, I'm sitting on the front row, as I typically did, and here comes Dr. Netherly walked in. Turns out the professor had swapped sections. So now I've got Dr. Netherly. Well, at this point in time, I'm basically looking at my watch, waiting on the clock to tick, 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 and I'm leaving. And as quick as I can get to the student union, I'm going to go stand in line. Because back then, again, there was no computers. You had to go stand in line. You had to fill out the card, and you had to hand it to the girl or the guy to change sections. That's all I was waiting to do. And over the course of the next 30 or 40 minutes, Dr. Netherly came in, and one of the things that he said that just really stuck me is you guys can take this class one of two ways, seriously or again. It's totally up to you. And of course that was his intimidation factor, and he was scaring us to death. And of course I'd already heard, don't take him. But due to other factors in his monologue that morning, I decided that, I think I can get along with this guy. And I decided to stay, and I ended up staying in his class. And it turns out he was, as I said earlier in the presentation, he was an outstanding professor. He was great. He used to work for GE or for General Motors, and he used to crash cars into concrete walls. And he would always say every day, "Don't forget to buckle up. Don't forget to buckle up." Before buckling up was totally politically correct, much less the law, he was constantly saying, buckle up, buckle up. Somebody wants to see you when you get to where you're going. And he was a great influence. He was a great instructor. I've still got his book, his textbook. The introduction on the textbook says, well, sometimes you need to talk about baseball, hot dogs, and apple pies, and Chevrolets. And then oh wait, I digress. We're here to talk about statistics or strength of materials. And he goes on. That was kind of the introduction of his textbook. But that was his personality. He was kind of I don't know, I can see where people could be afraid of him, seriously or again. Come on, get your act together. But if you just got if you would put forth any effort in his class, he would put forth 10 times that much effort back at you to make sure you understood what you were doing, or that you understood what you needed to know to be successful. And it was a great example of a good professor-student relationship, in my opinion. And it was good.
How many finished the class with you? Do you remember?
I don't even remember.
Some dropped that day.
We were in a room, big room, 30, 40, 50 people. I honestly don't remember. Way too long ago.
You remember your grade?
Oh, I'm sure it was an A.
You're sure?
Yeah. In the mechanical side, well, they was pretty steady A's. It was the major specific classes that sometimes I struggle with.
Psychology, sociology, that type of thing?
Yeah.
All right.
I like things when there's an answer that everybody comes to the same conclusion. That's the nice thing about math. It all adds up. No matter how, now there's different ways to get there.
Yes.
But the answer is the same, generally speaking. So that's it.
All right. Thank you for sharing.